Alright, this is Unit 2, Section 2 homework. This is the back page, 25 to 32. Alright, so now we're back to, we don't have a table, we just have a function. And instead of domain, now we have a range. So remember, these are y values. And we want to find domain, so we want x. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the page before. Anything without a fraction already in the function, I'm just going to do by hand to show you that way. Anything with a fraction, I'll show you in the calculator. That way you have two ways to do these, and you can do either one or both. Okay, so 25, because I have range and I want domain, I want x. Remember, I have to solve for x. Okay, so that's what I want. This one's a very simple one to do. All I do is move this minus 5 to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to have y plus 5 equals x. Okay, so now that I have x, I solve for x. That gives me my x values I need. Now I'm just going to replace y with each of these y values from the range. So now instead of y, remember I use parentheses, I do negative 10. That's my first y. And then plus 5. Okay. 5 minus 10 is negative 5. There's my first answer. Now we just do this 3 more times and we're done. So now instead of y, I have negative 5 plus 5, and 5 minus 5 is 0. Then I have, instead of y, it's 5 plus 5, that is 10, and instead of y I do 11, so I got 11 plus 5, and that gives me 16. So those are my 4 domain values, and so I'm going to go ahead and write it, the formal way that you're supposed to write it. So I just write them all in my fancy looking brackets, and I'm done. There's my answer. Alright, next, 26. There's no fractions, and there's only three range values, so I'm going to do this in by hand. Okay, so first thing is you move the plus 1 over here, so that becomes y minus 1 equals 3x. And to get x by itself, just like solving equations, you divide. So I'm going to divide all of this by 3. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this is you can leave this as one giant fraction, and when you plug in your numbers, you'll see that it's actually very simple to do. So like I'm going to use my first y, negative 20. Okay, so I have parentheses negative 20, that's my y, and then minus 1 divided by 3. Okay, so if you think about this, negative 20 minus 1 is negative 21. Negative 21 over 3 is negative 7. Okay, now you might be thinking, whoa, what the heck? I did not keep up. I don't know. I'm not that good at things. That's okay. I can still type this in my calculator. So remember, for fractions, you do alpha, y equals, enter. So I got a fraction, and there's the camera. So I'm going to type it in just like that. Negative, parentheses, negative 20, minus 1 over 3. And look at that. I got negative 7. So again, even if you write it out, if you want to, you can always type these in here and get an answer either way, just to make sure you don't do the math wrong by accident. Because how bad would it be, right, that you write it all out correctly and then you just added or subtracted wrong or divided wrong, and you got the whole thing wrong just from that. Like, you knew what you were doing, you just made a simple mistake. I mean, it happens, it's okay. But if you need to use the calculator, use it. Alright, I'm going to replace my y with my next value, so I have negative 8, parentheses, right, minus 1 over 3. So negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. And I do the last thing with my last y value, 19, minus 1 over 3. This one might be easier to see or do without the calculator. 19 minus 1 is 18. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, so then my domain, I'm going to write fancy brackets and then write those three numbers right here. And I'm done. That's it for 26. All right, 27. No fractions. I'm going to do it by hand. So I want to move everything away from x. Okay, so I have y minus 4 equals negative x. And I have taught some of y'all this, and if I have not, then here's your chance to learn it now. If I'm ever down to just a negative variable, or negative x, negative any letter, to get rid of the negative, what you're really doing is dividing by -1, but the shortcut way, the easy way it gets the same answer, is if you ever have a negative at the end, all you do is flip it to positive and then flip all the other signs in your equation. So now the -4 became +4 and the y became -y. Okay? So if you want to, I like to do the positive numbers first. You don't have to. Okay? So you can write 4 minus y equals x. And then I have my equation now where I can replace y with each of my range values and solve for x. Get my domain. Okay, so let's do that. So now I'm going to replace y. So I have 4 minus parentheses. My first y is 10 equals. Okay, so 4 minus 10, that's -6. Okay, then I do 4 minus y, so parentheses 0. Well, that's easy. That's 4. Didn't take anything away. My next one, 4 minus y, so parentheses -6. So if you know, if I have two negatives, that makes a positive, right? So it's really 4 plus 6. That gives me 10. And the same thing with the last one, 4 minus parentheses -9 equals. Okay, I have two negatives right there, so plus plus. 4 plus 9 is 13. And I got my 4 answers. So I'm going to do fancy bracket and then just write all those in order. And we're done. And 28. Okay, 28's got a fraction. So just for a different way to do these. I mean, I could do them all by hand, but I like to show different ways. So 28, I'm going to type this in to my y equals x plus 2. Okay, so this equation on my problem should match the one I just typed in, and it does. So remember, you press second graph, gives me my table. And because it gives me the range, right? So I have range, that's y. I want to look on the right side where y is, find these answers, and then I can write the domain. So my first answer I'm looking for is -28. So I may have to go up quite a bit. But again, it's either this or you do it by hand, which is why sometimes I just do it by hand because it's easier. Alright, so I found -28 for y, which means x is -50. So I'm going to go ahead and do my bracket and write my first domain, -50. Okay, now I do the next one. I want 20. Ooh, I gotta go all the way back to positive. Great. So you just hold it and just watch. We're still negative. Almost. Okay, they were positive. Now we gotta find 20. X is 30. Okay, now I want to find 35. Okay, so I go down a little bit. At least it's not as far as before. 35 is 55. And my last one, I want to find 47. Seems like forever away. 47. Oh, 75. Look at that. That's not too bad. And that's our answer. And we're done with 28. So, I mean, again, if you have a calculator or you want to use one, and you can do that on every single one of these. You don't have to write all this stuff out if you don't want to. Or you can write it all out. That's fine. Whichever way works. Okay, 29's has a fraction also. so I'm going to use the calculator. How about this? I'll do the last one by hand. Oh, it's blurry. I'll do number 32 by hand, even though there's a fraction. And yeah, I'll just do that. That way, if you really want to know, I'll show you on the last one. Okay. So I'm going to type in this equation, 7 minus 1/2 x. Okay, it looks the same. I press second graph, and I want to find these four numbers. So my first one is 4. Oh, I need to go the other way. 14. 13. 14 is negative. Oh, I need my little fancy bracket. So when the range is 14, my domain is negative 14. Now I want to find 11, which should be right here. Look at that, negative 8, if you can see that on the camera. 6, go down a little bit, is 2. And 0, 14. And look at that. And we're done. That's it for 29. Okay, so now we're on to 30. 30 is another fraction. So let's type this in. That y equals, and I do need to do negative 2, negative 2/3 x plus 9. Okay, that matches. Second graph, and now I need to find these four range values. That way I can get my domain that I need. First though, I'm going to write my fancy bracket. So I want to find 23. Gonna go all the way up right there. So when y is 23, x is negative 21. Now I need 9. Gotta go back down. X is 0, 1, and negative 1. Okay, so 1, we have 12, and negative 1, right here, 15. And that's it. So 28 is done. I guess I'm not going to need a calculator anymore. I'm going to do 32 by hand. All right, 31, no fractions. This will be a little easier. Okay, so this one is similar to what we did. 26, very similar to 26. Okay, I want to find x, or solve for x first, so I'm going to move the 7 over here. So I have y minus 7 equals negative 4x, and then to get x by itself, you divide. So I'm going to divide all this by negative 4. So here's my equation that I need to plug in these y values into. And so I take each number, I subtract 7, divide by negative 4, I have my domain, my x values. Okay, so instead of y, I'm going to do parentheses 27, that's my first one, minus 7 over negative 4. Alright, so I can, equals, right? Now you can type this in the calculator if you need to, but I'm just going to do it. So 27 minus 7 is 20, right? 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. Okay, so I have my little fancy bracket. That's my first answer, my first domain. And now I do the same thing with the other three. So my y is now 7 minus 7 over 4. Oh, this is easy, negative 4. 7 minus 7 is 0. 0 divided by anything is still 0. Okay, and then I need parentheses 3 minus 7 over negative 4. Okay, 3 minus 7 is negative 4. Divided by negative 4 is 1. And then my last one, I guess I'll do it down here. So instead of y, you get negative 25 minus 7 over negative 4. Okay, so negative 25 minus 7 is negative 32. Negative 32 over negative 4. Both negatives make it positive. And 32 divided by 4 is 8. And we're done. See, that wasn't that bad. And we're in the last question. Y'all should be celebrating, or at least happy. You're almost done. Okay, so to solve these by hand, it's really not that bad, right? I just haven't really shown a whole lot just because for most people, they're just going to type these in just because they see a fraction and they panic, which is okay. You know, you always have something to help you out. But just in case you are curious to learn, I'll go ahead and show you. So I still want to solve for x. I'm still going to do the same thing that I did on 31 and 26. I have to move this number away from x to the other side. So I have y plus 5, because minus goes to plus, right? And now I would divide by a fraction. I've not really gone over this a whole lot. Because again, I just want to keep things as simple as I can. But if you want to do these by hand, when you divide by a fraction, really the fraction flips to the other side and is multiplied. Okay? So this fraction comes all the way over here to the front, and I flip it and do 4 over 1 times the whole thing. So you see why I have not done this. So here, let me rewrite. So 4 over 1 is just 4 times y plus 5. Okay, there's my equation that I need to use to do this by hand. Okay, so now all I do is take these numbers, I'm going to plug it in, so I add 5 and then times 4. It seems very easy once you get the answer or get this equation. It's just getting there. For some people, it's just hard, and so it's easier to do it in the calculator, which is why I don't even bother to do this for most people. But hey, if you're good with this, great. So look, I'm going to replace y with these y values. So I have 4 parentheses, now y. So instead of y, I'm going to do, negative 9 plus 5. Okay. So I simply put these together and then times 4. So 5 minus 9 is negative 4 times 4, negative 16. Okay, then I do the same thing. I do 4 parentheses. Y is now negative 5 plus 5. So 5 minus 5 is 0 times 4, it's just 0. Okay, and I got 2 more. Y is 0 plus 5. Right, here's 0. So 0 plus 5 is 5 times 4 is 20. And my last one is 1. So I got 1 plus 5. 1 plus 5 is 6 times 4, 24. So look, you can do it by hand. And honestly, the fractions, and that would be true for all of them, the fraction just flips to the other side and still multiplies. That's really what you're doing when you divide by a fraction. But it's okay. So I'm going to write it down here just because I don't want to run out of room. So I have negative 16, 0, 20, and 24. And I'm done. Look at that. The homework is done. The paper is done, which means this video is now done.